Captain Kim Tae checked his instruments one more time. The small reconnaissance ship Soul's Pride hummed quietly around him as it moved through the empty space near Pluto's orbit. This was his third patrol this month, and like all the others, it was completely boring. Nothing ever happened out here in the cold darkness beyond Earth's main shipping lanes. Kim Tae had been flying for the Earth Defense Force for 8 years now. He joined right after the colonies on Mars and Europa started growing bigger. Someone had to watch the empty spaces, they said. Someone had to make sure nothing dangerous came close to Earth or the other human worlds. But in all his years of flying patrol missions, Kim Tae had never seen anything more exciting than a broken asteroid mining ship or a lost cargo hauler. Space was big and empty. Earth's scientists had been looking for other intelligent life for hundreds of years, and they had found nothing. Some people still believed aliens existed somewhere out there, but most humans had given up hope long ago. The radio crackled with the usual chatter from Earth Control. Soul's Pride, this is Control. Report your status. Kim Tae pressed the reply button. Control, this is Soul's Pride. All systems normal. Nothing to report out here. Copy that, Soul's Pride. Continue Patrol Pattern 7. Kim Tae sighed and turned his ship toward the next checkpoint. Patrol Pattern 7 would take him even further from Earth, out past the orbit of Neptune and into the really empty space where nothing lived and nothing happened. As he flew, Kim Tae thought about his sister back on Earth. Park Nari was a scientist who studied the possibility of alien life. She worked for the government, always looking at radio signals from space and studying planets around other stars. Nari believed that humans could not be alone in the universe. She said it was impossible for Earth to be the only planet with intelligent life. Kim Tae used to believe that too when he was younger. But after years of flying through empty space, seeing nothing but rocks and ice and distant stars, he had started to think maybe humans really were alone. Maybe Earth was special in a way that no other planet could be. His instruments began beeping. Kim Tae looked at the display and frowned. There was some kind of energy reading ahead, something that should not be there. Space was supposed to be empty in this region. There were no planets, no asteroids, no reason for any kind of energy signature. Kim Tae slowed his ship and moved carefully toward the source of the reading. As he got closer, he could see something strange on his visual display. The space in front of him looked wrong somehow, like the stars were bent or twisted in a way that hurt to look at. What the hell is that? Kim Tae said to himself. He had never seen anything like it. The twisted space seemed to pulse with a strange light that came from nowhere. His instruments were going crazy, showing readings that made no sense. The computer kept trying to analyze what it was seeing, but it could not find any match in its database. Kim Tae knew he should report this to Earth Control immediately. This was exactly the kind of thing that patrol ships were supposed to watch for. But something made him hesitate. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the boredom of too many empty patrols. He decided to get a closer look first. As his ship moved nearer to the strange phenomenon, Kim Tae could see that it was definitely not natural. The twisted space formed a kind of circle, and inside the circle was something that looked like a tunnel. The tunnel seemed to lead somewhere else, somewhere far away. Kim Tae had read about theoretical physics in school. He knew that some scientists thought it might be possible to fold space and create shortcuts between distant places. But no human had ever built anything like that. Human faster-than-light technology was different. Human ships used something called quantum displacement drives that moved the ship outside normal space for a few seconds at a time. This thing in front of him looked like it came from a completely different kind of science. Kim Tae made a decision that would change everything for humanity. Instead of reporting the phenomenon and waiting for orders, he decided to investigate it himself. He told himself it would only take a few minutes. He would fly through the tunnel, see what was on the other side, and then come back to report his findings. He aimed his ship at the center of the twisted space and pushed the throttle forward. The moment Soul's Pride entered the phenomenon, everything went wrong. The ship was grabbed by forces that Kim Tae could not understand. His instruments screamed warnings as the vessel was pulled through the tunnel at incredible speed. Kim Tae felt like his body was being stretched and compressed at the same time. The stars outside disappeared, replaced by swirling colors that made him feel sick. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the wild ride was over. Kim Tae found himself in normal space again, but it was not the space he knew. The stars were in completely different positions. When he checked his navigation computer, it told him he was thousands of light years from Earth. Before Kim Tae could fully understand what had happened to him, his ship's alarm started blaring again. This time, they were warning him about incoming vessels. Large, fast ships were approaching from multiple directions, surrounding him. Kim Tae tried to run, but his small reconnaissance ship was no match for the alien vessels. They used some kind of energy beam to grab his ship and pull it toward the largest of their vessels. Kim Tae had no choice but to prepare for capture. As his ship was pulled into what looked like a hangar bay, Kim Tae got his first look at the aliens. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes. They moved with careful, precise motions and wore clothing that seemed to be made of some kind of metal fabric. The aliens did not seem hostile, but they were clearly in control. When Kim Tae stepped out of his ship, they surrounded him with what were obviously weapons, though he could not tell exactly how the weapons worked. One of the aliens stepped forward and spoke. Somehow, Kim Tae could understand the words, though he was sure the alien was not speaking any human language. "You are from the empty quarter," the alien said. "This is impossible. The empty quarter has no intelligent life. Our surveys have confirmed this for 3,000 years. Kim Tae realized that these aliens had never heard of humans before. They had been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years, but they had somehow missed Earth completely. The area of space where Earth was located was what they called the empty quarter. "I am Captain Kim Tae of the Earth Defense Force," he said, trying to sound calm and professional. "My species is called human, and we come from a planet called Earth." The aliens looked at each other with what Kim Tae thought might be surprise or confusion. The one who had spoken to him before spoke again. "You will come with us. The Galactic Council must learn of this discovery immediately." As Kim Tae was led away from his ship, he realized that he had just made first contact with an alien civilization. But these aliens were not alone. They had mentioned something called the Galactic Council, which suggested there were many different alien species working together. For thousands of years, the galaxy had been ruled by aliens who believed they were alone in the universe. They had divided up all the known space between them and had never bothered to look closely at the region where Earth was located. Now, because of Kim Tae's curiosity and his decision to investigate the strange phenomenon in space, everything was about to change. The aliens were about to learn that they were not alone in the galaxy. And soon, the rest of humanity would learn that Earth was not alone either. Kim Tae wondered what his sister Nari would say when she found out that she had been right all along. Aliens did exist, and now they knew about humans too. The future had just become much more complicated for everyone. Dr. Park Nari stared at the message on her computer screen for the third time. She could hardly believe what she was reading. Her brother Kim Tae was alive, but he was no longer anywhere near Earth. According to the message, he was thousands of light years away, being held by something called the Galactic Council. The message had come through channels that Park Nari had never seen before. It was transmitted using technology that was far more advanced than anything humans had developed. But somehow the message was written in perfect Korean, which meant the aliens had learned human languages very quickly. Park Nari worked for the Earth Science Department as their chief expert on the possibility of alien life. For 15 years, she had been studying radio signals from space and analyzing data from deep space probes. She had always believed that intelligent life existed somewhere in the galaxy, but she had never expected first contact to happen like this. The message explained that the Galactic Council wanted to meet with representatives from Earth. They wanted to establish formal diplomatic contact and learn more about human civilization. The message was polite and friendly, but Park Nari could sense something underneath the words that made her nervous. Within hours of receiving the message, Park Nari found herself in a meeting with Admiral Lee Kwan, the commander of Earth's defense forces. Admiral Lee was a serious man in his 50s who had spent his entire career preparing for threats that most people thought would never come. "Dr. Park," Admiral Lee said as she entered his office, "I assume you have read the alien message?" "Yes, sir," Park Nari replied. "My brother made contact with an alien civilization. They call themselves the Galactic Council, and they want to meet with us. Admiral Lee nodded. The question is whether we can trust them. Your brother is their prisoner, even if they are calling him their guest. They have technology that is far ahead of ours, at least in some areas. Park Nari had been thinking about the same thing. The aliens had somehow learned to speak Korean in just a few days. They had built technology that could fold space and create shortcuts between distant stars. Their ships were clearly more advanced than human vessels. But there were things about the message that gave Park Nari hope. The aliens seemed genuinely surprised to discover humans. They had not been looking for Earth or trying to conquer human space. Kim Tae had found them by accident, and now they were trying to figure out what to do about it. I think we should meet with them, Park Nari said. They could have simply destroyed my brother's ship, but they did not. They could have ignored his presence or tried to hide from us, but instead they are reaching out for contact. Admiral Lee looked out the window of his office toward the shipyards where humanity's defense fleet was being built. Perhaps. But we need to be careful. They say they represent something called the Galactic Council, which suggests they control a large part of the galaxy. We know nothing about their politics or their intentions. Over the next week, Park Nari worked with teams of linguists, anthropologists, and military analysts to prepare for humanity's first diplomatic contact with an alien civilization. The aliens had suggested a meeting at a neutral location, a space station in a system that was roughly halfway between Earth and their home territories. The aliens sent detailed information about the meeting location and the safety protocols that would be followed. They seemed to understand that humans would be nervous about traveling so far from Earth to meet with unknown aliens. They offered guarantees for the safety of the human diplomatic team and provided technical information about their space station. Admiral Lee assigned Commander Choi Bin to analyze the alien communications and look for any hidden threats or deceptions. Commander Choi was the head of military intelligence, and his job was to find problems that other people might miss. The aliens are being very careful to appear non-threatening, Commander Choi reported after studying the alien messages. They are providing a lot of information about themselves and their technology. Either they are genuinely peaceful, or they are very good at deception. Park Nari was chosen to lead the human diplomatic team. She had spent her career studying the possibility of alien contact, and she understood both the science and the politics involved. She would be accompanied by a small team of experts and a military escort led by Commander Choi. The journey to the meeting location took 3 weeks using humanity's fastest ships. During the trip, Park Nari studied everything the aliens had told them about themselves and their civilization. The picture that emerged was both fascinating and troubling. The Galactic Council consisted of 5 major alien species that had been working together for over 3,000 years. They had divided the galaxy between themselves and had created a complex system of laws and trade agreements. Each species had their own strengths and specialties, and they worked together to maintain peace and order across vast regions of space. But there was something in the alien communications that bothered Park Nari. The aliens seemed to assume that humans would naturally want to join their system. They talked about offering Earth protection and guidance, as if humans were children who needed help from older, wiser species. When the human diplomatic ship finally arrived at the meeting location, Park Nari was amazed by what she saw. The alien space station was enormous, easily 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built in space. It was beautiful, too, with flowing curves and bright lights that made it look more like a work of art than a military installation. The aliens who greeted the human delegation were just as impressive as their technology. There were representatives from all 5 species of the Galactic Council, and each species was completely different from the others. Some were tall and thin like the ones who had captured Kim Tae. Others were short and broad with thick armor-like skin. One species seemed to be made of energy that held together in a roughly humanoid shape. The leader of the alien delegation introduced himself as Council Speaker Venth of the Valdry species. He was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. When he spoke, his words were translated into perfect Korean by some kind of advanced technology. Dr. Park Nari of Earth, Speaker Venth said with what seemed like genuine warmth. We are honored to meet the first representative of your species, This is a historic moment for both our civilizations. Park Nari replied carefully, following the diplomatic protocols she had studied during the journey. Speaker Venth, we are grateful for this opportunity to meet with the Galactic Council. We hope this can be the beginning of peaceful relations between our peoples. The formal meetings began immediately. The aliens were eager to learn about human civilization, technology, and culture. They asked detailed questions about Earth's government, military capabilities, and scientific achievements. Park Nari answered honestly, but she was careful not to reveal too much about humanity's strengths or weaknesses. As the discussions continued, Park Nari began to understand the real situation. The Galactic Council had been the dominant power in this part of the galaxy for thousands of years. They had grown used to being in control of everything. When they encountered new species, those species usually joined the Council system as junior members. The aliens seemed to assume that humans would follow the same pattern. They spoke about the benefits of Council membership and the protection that the Council could provide for Earth. They talked about sharing their advanced technology and helping humanity develop faster-than-light travel and other scientific advances. But there was something underneath their polite words that made Park Nari uncomfortable. The aliens seemed to think that humans were primitive and naive. They acted like they were doing humanity a great favor by offering Council membership. When Park Nari tried to suggest that Earth might prefer to remain independent while establishing trade and diplomatic relations, the aliens looked confused. Speaker Venth explained patiently that independence was not really possible in the modern galaxy. Space was too dangerous, and there were too many complex political situations for a young species to handle alone. Your species is very new to galactic civilization, Speaker Venth said. You have only achieved faster-than-light travel within the last century. The Council has thousands of years of experience in managing galactic affairs. We can help your species avoid the mistakes that young civilizations often make. Park Nari realized that the aliens saw humans as children who needed guidance and protection. They were not offering partnership or equality. They were offering to take care of humanity in exchange for human submission to Council authority. The situation became clearer when the aliens began discussing the details of Council membership. New member species were expected to follow Council laws and regulations. They had to accept Council oversight of their military forces and foreign relations. They could trade with other species, but only according to Council rules. In exchange, the Council would protect new members from external threats and provide access to advanced technology. New members would have a voice in Council decisions, but their influence would be limited until they had proven themselves over many years. Park Nari listened to all of this with growing concern. The aliens were offering to turn humanity into a protected species, like animals in a zoo. Humans would be safe and comfortable, but they would never. Admiral Lee Kwan read Dr. Park Nari's report 3 times before he fully understood what it meant. The aliens wanted to make humanity into a protected species under their control. They offered advanced technology and safety, but the price was Earth's independence. Admiral Lee had spent his entire career preparing for this moment, though he had always imagined it would be different. He had trained for alien invasions and space wars, not for aliens who wanted to adopt humanity like stray pets. The Admiral sat in his command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by screens showing the positions of every human ship in space. Earth's defense fleet was not large compared to what the aliens had described, but it was growing every day. Human shipyards on Mars, Europa, and the asteroid belt were working around the clock to build new vessels. Sir, Commander, Choi's voice came through the secure communication link from the alien space station. Dr. Park needs to give the Council an answer soon. They are getting impatient. Admiral Lee looked at the final report from Earth's government. The President and the Congress had made their decision after 3 days of emergency meetings. The answer was exactly what Admiral Lee had expected. Tell Dr. Park she has permission to deliver our response, Admiral Lee said. Earth thanks the Galactic Council for their generous offer, but we choose to remain independent. We are interested in trade and diplomatic relations as equals, but we will not accept Council authority over human affairs. There was a pause before Commander Choi responded. Sir, the aliens are not going to like this answer. They seem to think that refusing Council protection is both stupid and dangerous. Let them think what they want, Admiral Lee replied. Humans did not fight their way to the stars just to surrender their freedom to the first aliens they met. Admiral Lee ended the communication and turned to his staff. Begin Operation Homestead immediately. I want every ship in the fleet ready for combat within 6 hours. Operation Homestead was Earth's plan for defending the solar system against alien attack. For months, human engineers had been preparing defenses and building new weapons based on their analysis of alien technology. They had learned a lot from studying the messages and technical data that the aliens had shared, but Admiral Lee had another plan that the aliens knew nothing about. While Dr. Park had been conducting diplomacy at the alien space station, Earth's shipyards had been working on something special, 12 massive new ships that represented humanity's greatest achievement in military engineering. The aliens called them primitives, but humans had learned a few things during their long history of warfare on Earth. They understood the value of overwhelming firepower and strong defenses. They knew how to build weapons that could destroy entire cities and armor that could protect against almost any attack. Meanwhile, at the alien space station, Dr. Park Nari was preparing to deliver humanity's answer to the Galactic Council. She had spent the morning studying the alien representatives, trying to understand how they would react to Earth's refusal. Speaker Venth of the Valdry seemed to be the most reasonable of the alien leaders. He genuinely believed that council membership would be good for humanity. Dr. Park thought he would be disappointed but not angry when he heard Earth's decision. The Krenth representative was different. War leader Korthak was a massive alien with thick, armor-like skin and eyes that seemed to burn with inner fire. The Krenth were the military arm of the Galactic Council, and Korthak clearly believed that force was the answer to most problems. When Dr. Park entered the council chamber to deliver Earth's response, she could feel the tension in the room. Yet, aliens had been discussing humanity's future among themselves, and they had obviously expected a different answer than the one she was about to give. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Dr. Park began, speaking in the formal style that the aliens seemed to prefer. I bring greetings from the government and people of Earth, and our official response to your generous offer of council membership. Speaker Venth leaned forward in his chair. We are eager to hear your people's decision, Dr. Park. Dr. Park took a deep breath. Earth is grateful for the Council's offer of protection and guidance. However, we must respectfully decline membership. In the Galactic Council, we prefer to remain independent while establishing peaceful trade and diplomatic relations with all Council species. The silence that followed was so complete that Dr. Park could hear the hum of the space station's engines. The alien representatives looked at each other with expressions that she could not read. Finally, Speaker Venth spoke. Dr. Park, I think there has been some misunderstanding. Perhaps we did not explain clearly enough the benefits of Council membership, or the dangers that young species face when they try to survive alone in the galaxy. There is no misunderstanding, Dr. Park replied firmly. Humanity understands your offer perfectly. We simply choose independence over protection. War leader Korthak's voice rumbled like distant thunder. This is foolishness. Your species has barely learned to travel between stars. You know nothing of galactic politics or the threats that exist in deep space. Without Council protection, you will not survive. Dr. Park met the alien warrior's burning gaze without flinching. Humans have survived many threats during our history. We have confidence in our ability to protect ourselves. Speaker Venth tried a different approach. Dr. Park, please understand that we are not trying to control your species. The Council system allows member species considerable freedom to govern themselves. But there are certain galactic laws that must be followed for the good of all civilizations. And if humanity chooses not to follow those laws? Dr. Park asked. The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Dr. Park realized that she had just asked the most important question in human history. The alien's answer would determine whether first contact led to peace or war. War leader Korthak answered first. Species that refuse Council authority are considered rogue civilizations. They become threats to galactic peace and order. The Council has a responsibility to deal with such threats appropriately. Dr. Park felt a chill run down her spine. The alien warrior was threatening humanity without actually using the word war. But the meaning was clear enough. Speaker Venth looked uncomfortable with his colleague's blunt words. What War Leader Korthak means is that the Council will need to monitor your species closely if you refuse membership. For the safety of all galactic civilizations, We cannot allow rogue species to develop advanced weapons or expand without supervision. Supervision, Dr. Park repeated. That sounds very much like control. It is necessary, another alien representative said. This was Council Seer Theiss of the Thane, a species that seemed to be made of energy held together by will. Young species often make dangerous mistakes. They develop weapons that could threaten entire star systems. They expand too quickly and destabilize existing trade routes. The Council has seen this pattern many times. Dr. Park realized that the aliens were giving humanity a choice between willing submission and forced submission. Either humans joined the Council voluntarily, or the Council would impose its authority by force. I will report your concerns to my government, Dr. Park said carefully. But I do not think Earth's position will change. The meeting ended with polite words and diplomatic smiles, but Dr. Park could sense the anger and frustration beneath the alien courtesy. As she left the council chamber, Commander Choi fell into step beside her. How bad is it? He asked quietly. Bad, Dr. Park replied. They think we are dangerous children who need to be controlled for our own good and everyone else's safety. If we refuse to submit voluntarily, they will find another way to force us into line. What kind of force? Dr. Park thought about War Leader Korthak's burning eyes and the casual way he had talked about dealing with rogue civilizations. The kind that involves warships. Commander Choi was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled grimly. They might be in for a surprise? Dr. Park looked at him curiously. What do you mean? I mean that Admiral Lee has been very busy while we have been talking to aliens. The shipyards have completed their special project. What special project? Commander Choi's smile grew wider. You will see soon enough. But I think the Galactic Council is about to learn that humans are not the helpless primitives they think we are. 2 days later, War Leader Korthak received orders from the Galactic Council. He was to take a battle fleet to the human home system and demonstrate the Council's power. The humans would be given one final chance to accept Council protection. If they refused again, more serious measures would be taken. Korthak was pleased with these orders. He had never liked the idea of negotiating with primitives. Force was a language that all species understood, and the humans would learn to respect Council authority once they saw what they were dealing with. Korthak assembled a fleet of 50 warships, the largest show of force that the Council had mounted in over a century. It was a massive display designed to intimidate rather than destroy. The Council wanted to frighten the humans into submission, not annihilate them. The Krenth fleet traveled through folded space, covering the vast distance to Earth in just a few days. As they emerged from their space tunnel near the outer edge of the human solar system, Korthak expected to find a small defense force of primitive human vessels. What he F? War Leader Korthak stared at Admiral Lee Kwan's message for a full minute before he could find his voice. Several hundred ships like these massive dreadnoughts? It was impossible. The humans were a young species that had only achieved spaceflight within the last century. They could not possibly have built such a massive fleet, but the evidence was right in front of him. 12 enormous warships hung in space, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in his fleet. The energy readings from the human vessels were beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered. War Leader, his tactical officer said, I am detecting massive power sources within each human vessel. The weapon signatures suggest firepower equivalent to our entire fleet. Korthak's thick armor-like skin darkened with anger. The humans were trying to bluff him, he decided. They had built a few large ships to make themselves look more dangerous than they really were. No species could advance from primitive spaceflight to this level of military technology in just a few decades. Open a communication channel to the human fleet, Korthak ordered. I will speak with their admiral directly. The image of Admiral Lee Kwan appeared on the main screen. The human looked older than most of his species, with gray hair and tired eyes that suggested he had seen many battles. But there was something in those eyes that made Korthak pause. This was not the look of a primitive being overwhelmed by superior technology. This was the look of an experienced warrior who knew exactly what he was doing. War Leader Korthak, Admiral Lee said in a calm voice, I assume you are here to deliver the Galactic Council's ultimatum. I am here to offer your species one final chance to accept Council protection, Korthak replied. Your people have made a foolish choice, but the Council is merciful. Surrender now, and your species will be treated with respect. Admiral Lee smiled, and somehow that smile made Korthak even more uncomfortable than the massive human warships. We appreciate the Council's concern for our welfare, but as I mentioned in my message, Earth's position has not changed. We choose independence. Then you choose destruction, Korthak growled. My fleet consists of 50 warships. You have only 12 vessels, no matter how large they might be. Actually, Admiral Lee said, you have 50 ships. I have 12 Dreadnoughts, each of which carries more firepower than your entire fleet combined. But I am not here to threaten you, War Leader. I am here to make you an offer. Korthak was so surprised by the human's words that he almost forgot to be angry. You dare to make an offer to me? I offer you the chance to leave this system peacefully and report back to your council. Tell them that humanity is stronger than they believed and that we genuinely want peaceful relations with all galactic species. The arrogance of the primitive human was beyond belief. Korthak's anger finally overcame his confusion. You think your large ships frighten me? The Krenth have been warriors for thousands of years. We know how to deal with primitives who build weapons they do not understand. Admiral Lee's expression did not change. War Leader, you are making the same mistake that the Council has been making since they first learned about humanity. You think we are primitives because we are young, but humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years too. We just fought them on one planet instead of across the galaxy. Captain Kim Tae, who had been listening to the conversation from the bridge of Admiral Lee's flagship, stepped forward. He had been serving as a liaison officer since his return from the alien space station, helping to translate between human and alien ways of thinking. War Leader, Kim Tae said, may I explain something about human military doctrine? Korthak looked at the young human pilot with contempt. Speak quickly, primitive. Kim Tae was not insulted by the alien's rudeness. He had expected it. The ships you see before you are built according to human theories of warfare. We call them Dreadnoughts because they are designed to make other ships afraid to fight them. Fear is a tool for the weak, Korthak replied. No, Kim Tae said patiently. Fear is a tool for survival. Each of these Dreadnoughts carries enough nuclear weapons to destroy every ship in your fleet 10 times over. They are protected by armor that can withstand direct hits from weapons that could level cities. And most importantly, they represent only a small part of humanity's total military strength. Korthak's tactical officer whispered urgently in his ear. The sensors were confirming what the human pilot had said. Each Dreadnought carried an arsenal that seemed designed for destroying entire fleets rather than fighting ship-to-ship battles. But there was something else that worried Korthak even more. His ships had been designed for the kind of warfare that the galaxy had known for thousands of years. Ship-to-ship combat with energy weapons and boarding actions. The human vessels seemed to be built for a completely different kind of war. You are bluffing, Korthak said, but his voice lacked conviction. No species builds ships with such massive weapons unless they plan to use them for conquest. Admiral Lee shook his head. War Leader, humans learned long ago that the best way to avoid war is to be so well prepared for it that enemies choose not to fight. These ships exist to protect Earth and human colonies. They are not weapons of conquest. Then why do you need so many? The question came from Commander Choi, who had been monitoring the conversation from the Human Intelligence Center. But it was Admiral Lee who answered. Because we learned from studying your people's history, War Leader, the galaxy is a dangerous place, full of species that might decide humans are a threat that needs to be eliminated. We built these ships to make sure that anyone who wants to destroy humanity will pay a price so high that they will choose peace instead. Korthak felt a chill run through his armored body. The humans were not just building ships for defense. They were building them as a deterrent against the entire galaxy, and if what they said was true about having hundreds of such vessels, they might actually have succeeded. You cannot fight the entire Galactic Council, Korthak said, but his voice was no longer as confident as before. We do not want to fight anyone, Admiral Lee replied, but if the Council chooses to make war on humanity, we will defend ourselves with everything we have. On his own ship, Captain Kim Tae was watching the alien fleet through the tactical displays. He could see that the Krenth ships were powerful and well-designed, but they were built for a different kind of warfare than what humans had prepared for. The aliens had thousands of years of experience with galactic civilization, but they had lived in peace for most of that time. Their wars were small conflicts between individual species, settled quickly with limited violence. They had never faced an enemy that was prepared to destroy entire fleets in single battles. Humans, on the other hand, had learned warfare in the hardest school possible. They had fought each other for thousands of years on Earth, developing weapons and tactics that were designed for total victory or total destruction. When humans finally reached the stars, they brought those lessons with them. "War leader," Kim Tae said, "I want to show you something that might help you understand human capabilities." Kim Tae activated a holographic display that showed the positions of ships throughout the solar system. Korthak expected to see the 12 Dreadnoughts and perhaps a few smaller escort vessels. Instead, he saw hundreds of ships of all sizes scattered throughout human space. There were massive industrial vessels mining asteroids and building new ships. There were patrol craft watching every approach to the inner planets. There were supply ships carrying materials between human colonies. And there were warships. Lots of warships. Far more than any species should have been able to build in such a short time. "This is impossible," Korthak whispered. "No," Kim Tae said. "This is human industrial capacity. When my people decide to build something, we build a lot of it very quickly. Earth's shipyards have been working for 3 years to prepare for this moment." Admiral Lee's voice cut through Korthak's shock. "War leader, I am going to power up my weapon systems now. Not to threaten you, but to give you accurate data to report back to your council." The energy readings from the human dreadnoughts suddenly spiked to levels that Korthak's sensors had trouble measuring. Each ship was generating enough power to supply an entire planet. The weapons signatures suggested firepower that could destroy moons. Korthak's tactical officer was reading the data with growing alarm. "War leader, each human ship is more powerful than our entire battle group. If they are telling the truth about having hundreds of such vessels, then humanity could fight the entire Galactic Council on equal terms." Korthak finished the sentence himself. Admiral Lee spoke again, his voice still calm and reasonable. "War leader, I want you to take this information back to your council. Tell them that humanity is not the primitive species they thought we were. Tell them that we are capable of defending ourselves against any threat. But also tell them," Kim Tae added, "that we genuinely want peace. We do not want to conquer anyone or threaten the existing galactic order. We just want to be left alone to develop our own civilization in our own way." Korthak looked at the tactical displays showing hundreds of human ships. He thought about the massive dreadnoughts with their impossible weapons. He realized that the Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake in their assessment of human capabilities. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything that had happened in over 1,000 years. Representatives from all 5 major species gathered in the Great Chamber on Valorous Prime, their voices echoing off the crystal walls, as they debated what to do about the human problem. War leader Korthak stood in the center of the chamber, his massive frame casting long shadows as he delivered his report. The holographic displays around him showed the tactical data that his fleet had gathered during their encounter with the human dreadnoughts. "Each human vessel," Korthak said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "generates more power than our largest battleships. Their weapons are designed for destroying entire fleets, not for the ship-to-ship combat that we have practiced for millennia." Speaker Venth of the Valdry leaned forward in his seat. "How many ships do they actually possess? Your initial report suggested hundreds of vessels. My sensors detected over 300 human warships of various sizes throughout their home system," Korthak replied. "And their industrial capacity suggests they are building more ships every day. At their current rate of construction, they could match the combined fleets of the entire council within a few years." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Council Seer Thys of the Thane rose from her energy form, her voice rippling with concern. "This changes everything. We have based our approach to the humans on the assumption that they were a young, weak species in need of guidance." Trademaster Zelen of the Nexon spoke next, his thick voice heavy with worry. "If the humans continue to expand their military, at this rate, they could destabilize the entire galactic economy. Our trade routes, our mining operations, our colonial territories, all of it could be threatened." But it was harmony singer Aelith of the Ilari who voiced what many were thinking. "Perhaps we have been approaching this situation incorrectly. The humans have shown no aggressive intentions toward any council species. They have repeatedly stated that they want peaceful relations. Maybe we should consider treating them as equals rather than as subjects. The suggestion caused an uproar in the chamber. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had been the supreme authority in this part of the galaxy. The idea of treating a newcomer species as an equal was almost unthinkable. Speaker Venth called for order, his voice cutting through the noise. The question before us is simple. Do we accept humanity as an independent power, or do we take action to prevent them from becoming a threat to galactic stability? Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Park Nari was conducting her own diplomatic efforts. She had returned from the alien space station with a much better understanding of galactic politics, and she was working to establish communication channels with individual council species. Park Nari had learned that not all the aliens felt the same way about humanity. The Thane and the Alari seemed genuinely interested in peaceful coexistence. They were curious about human culture and science, and they appeared to respect humanity's desire for independence. The Valdry were more complicated. They saw themselves as the intellectual leaders of the galaxy, and they were troubled by humanity's rapid technological advancement. Some Valdry wanted to study human science and learn from it. Others saw human technology as a threat to their own supremacy. The Nexon were primarily concerned with economics. They controlled many of the galaxy's most important trade routes and mining operations, and they worried that human expansion could disrupt their carefully maintained system of commerce. But it was the Krenth who presented the biggest problem. As the military arm of the Galactic Council, they saw everything in terms of strength and weakness. To them, humanity represented a potential threat that needed to be eliminated before it could grow stronger. Dr. Park was working to build relationships with the more moderate aliens when she received an urgent message from her brother. Captain Kim Tae had been monitoring alien communications from his position as a liaison officer, and he had discovered something alarming. "Nari," Kim Tae's message said, "the Valdry are building a coalition against us. They are trying to convince the other species that humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to continue expanding. They want to launch a preemptive strike before our fleet becomes too powerful." Dr. Park immediately contacted Admiral Lee with this information. The Admiral had been expecting something like this, but the speed of the alien response was troubling. "How much time do we have?" Admiral Lee asked during their secure communication. "Unknown," Dr. Park replied. "Kim Tae thinks the Valdry need at least a few weeks to build their coalition. Not all the Council species are willing to support military action against us." Admiral Lee nodded grimly. "Then we need to use that time wisely. Operation Starfall is ready to begin." Operation Starfall was humanity's backup plan for dealing with alien aggression. While Dr. Park had been conducting diplomacy and Admiral Lee had been demonstrating human strength, Commander Choi had been working on something much more secretive. Commander Choi had spent months analyzing alien communications and studying their military protocols. He had learned that the Galactic Council's greatest weakness was their overconfidence. They had been the dominant power for so long that they had grown careless about security. Using techniques developed during Earth's long history of espionage and intelligence gathering, Commander Choi had quietly infiltrated the alien communication networks. Human agents were now monitoring Council discussions in real time, giving Earth advance warning of any hostile plans. But Commander Choi had discovered something even more important than military intelligence. He had learned that the Galactic Council was not as united as they pretended to be. There were deep divisions between the different species, old rivalries and competing interests that could be exploited. "The Valdry think they are the smartest species in the galaxy," Commander Choi explained to Admiral Lee. "But they have made the mistake of underestimating human intelligence capabilities. We know about their coalition before some of their own. Allies do." Admiral Lee studied the intelligence reports that Commander Choi had gathered. The picture that emerged was complex and troubling. The Valdry leadership had convinced themselves that humanity represented an existential threat to their technological supremacy. They were planning to use their influence over the other Council species to authorize military action against Earth. But the coalition was fragile. The Alari and Thane were reluctant participants, more concerned about the moral implications of attacking a peaceful species than about potential human threats. The Nexon were primarily worried about the economic disruption that a war would cause. Only the Krenth were enthusiastic supporters of the Valdry plan. They saw the situation as an opportunity to demonstrate their military prowess and remind the galaxy why the Council needed their protection. Dr. Park was working frantically to prevent the coalition from forming. She had established private communication channels with moderate leaders among the Alari and Thane, trying to convince them that humanity genuinely wanted peaceful coexistence. Her efforts were helped by the actions of individual humans throughout the galaxy. Human traders were establishing commercial relationships with alien merchants. Human scientists were sharing research data with their alien counterparts. Human explorers were helping to map previously unknown regions of space. These individual contacts were creating positive impressions of humanity among ordinary aliens, even as their governments debated whether humans were too dangerous to live. But Dr. Park knew that good intentions might not be enough. The Valdry were powerful and persuasive, and they had centuries of experience in galactic politics. If they succeeded in convincing the Council that humanity was a threat, even the moderate species might support military action. The crisis came to a head when the Valdry presented their final proposal to the Galactic Council. They had prepared a detailed analysis of human military capabilities, complete with projections showing how dangerous humanity could become if allowed to continue expanding. The humans claim to want peace, the Valdry representative argued. But they are building the largest military force the galaxy has ever seen. Their dreadnoughts carry enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. Their industrial capacity could produce thousands of such vessels within a few years. If we allow this expansion to continue, the Valdry continued, humanity will soon be powerful enough to challenge the Council's authority. They could conquer our worlds, enslave our peoples, and impose their primitive culture on the entire galaxy. The Valdry proposal was elegant in its simplicity. A coalition fleet would be assembled from all Council species. This fleet would travel to human space and demand the immediate dismantling of the human military. If the humans refused, the coalition would destroy their shipyards and military installations, reducing them to a level where they could no longer threaten galactic peace. The proposal was presented as a humanitarian mission to prevent a galactic war. The Valdry argued that taking action now would save millions of lives that would be lost in a future conflict between humanity and the Council. It was a compelling argument, and several Council species began to support the Valdry plan. But before the vote could be taken, something unexpected happened. Commander Choi's intelligence network detected the final preparations for the coalition attack. The Valdry coalition fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory exactly as Commander Choi's intelligence had predicted. 300 alien warships spread out across space in perfect formation, representing the combined military might of 3 Council species. Fleet Commander Vorthek of the Valdry stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the tactical displays that showed the approaching human colonies. The plan was simple and direct. Destroy the human shipyards and military installations, then demand the surrender of the human fleet. With their industrial capacity eliminated, the humans would have no choice but to accept Council authority. But as the coalition fleet moved deeper into human space, Vorthek began to realize that something was wrong. His sensors were detecting far more human activity than intelligence reports had suggested. There were ships everywhere, patrol vessels, cargo haulers, construction platforms, and warships of every size. Fleet Commander, his tactical officer, reported, "I am detecting massive energy signatures throughout this system. The humans appear to have built defensive installations on every major asteroid and moon." Vorthek frowned at the display. The human defenses were far more extensive than anyone had imagined. Every piece of rock larger than a building had been turned into a weapons platform. Space itself seemed to be alive with defensive systems. Then, Admiral Li Quan's voice echoed through every ship in the coalition fleet. "Fleet Commander Vorthek, this is Admiral Li of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered human space with hostile intent. I am offering you one chance to withdraw peacefully." Vorthek activated his communication system. "Admiral Li, I am here, under the authority of the Galactic Council, to eliminate the threat that your species poses to galactic peace. Surrender your fleet and prepare to dismantle your military installations." Admiral Li's response was calm and professional. "I understand your position, Fleet Commander, but I think you should know what you are really facing before you make any irreversible decisions." Suddenly, space around the Coalition fleet began to change. Ships that had been hidden behind asteroids and moons emerged into view. Weapons platforms that had been powered down came online. Most shocking of all, massive vessels began dropping out of hyperspace all around the alien fleet. Vorthek watched in growing horror as his tactical display filled with red dots representing human warships. There were not just dozens of dreadnoughts. There were hundreds of them. Each one was larger and more heavily armed than anything in his fleet. "This is impossible," Vorthek whispered. "No species could build so many vessels so quickly." Captain Kim Tae's voice came over the communication channel. He was serving as Admiral Lee's liaison officer, and his job was to help the aliens understand what they were seeing. "Fleet Commander," Kim Tae said, "what you are looking at is the full strength of humanity's defense force. 350 dreadnoughts, supported by over 2,000 smaller vessels. Every human colony, every mining station, every trade route is protected by ships like these." Vorthek's tactical officer was reading the sensor data with growing panic. "Sir, the energy readings from the human fleet are beyond our ability to measure. Each of their dreadnoughts generates more power than our entire task force." But the true revelation came when Admiral Lee activated the human defense grid. Throughout the solar system, massive weapons platforms powered up simultaneously. Space stations that had looked like harmless research facilities revealed themselves to be heavily armed battle stations. Even the asteroids themselves began moving, powered by hidden engines and bristling with weapons. "My God," Vorthek breathed. "The entire system is a fortress." Admiral Lee's voice was patient but firm. "Fleet Commander, humanity has been preparing for this moment since we first learned that we were not alone in the galaxy. We knew that some species would see us as a threat simply because we refused to submit to their authority. War leader Korthak, who was commanding the Krenth contingent of the Coalition fleet, activated his own communication system. Admiral Lee, you may have more ships than we expected, but this changes nothing. The Galactic Council will not allow your species to threaten the peace of the galaxy." "War leader," Admiral Lee replied, "we have never threatened anyone. But if you insist on making war against humanity, you will discover exactly what we are capable of." The battle that followed was swift and decisive, but not in the way that anyone expected. Admiral Lee did not order his fleet to attack the Coalition forces. Instead, he demonstrated human military doctrine in a way that no alien had ever seen before. The human dreadnoughts positioned themselves between the Coalition fleet and the colonies they were supposed to protect. Then they powered up their weapon systems to full capacity, creating energy signatures that could be detected from the other side of the galaxy. "This is a demonstration," Admiral Lee announced. "Each of my dreadnoughts carries enough nuclear weapons to sterilize a planet. Our defensive platforms are armed with particle beam weapons that can cut through any known armor. We could destroy your entire fleet in less than 10 minutes. To prove his point, Admiral Lee ordered a single weapons test. One human dreadnought fired a single shot at an abandoned asteroid. The result was spectacular. The asteroid simply ceased to exist, vaporized by energies that the aliens had never seen before. "But," Admiral Lee continued, "we will not fire on your ships unless you fire first. Humanity does not want war with the Galactic Council. We want peace, trade, and cooperation." The Coalition fleet found itself in an impossible position. They had come to destroy human military capability, only to discover that humanity possessed firepower that could annihilate their entire civilization. But the humans were not attacking. They were simply demonstrating that they could defend themselves against any threat. Fleet Commander Vorthek realized that the Coalition had been based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. The Valdry had convinced the Council that humans were aggressive primitives who would use their growing strength to conquer the galaxy. But the reality was completely different. Humans had built the most powerful military force in galactic history, and they were using it to protect rather than conquer. They were offering peace to the same aliens who had come to destroy them. Dr. Park Nari's voice joined the communication channel from her position aboard Admiral Lee's flagship. "Fleet Commander Vorthek, I want to make an offer on behalf of the Earth government." "What kind of offer?" Vorthek asked, his voice heavy with defeat. "Humanity proposes a new relationship with the Galactic Council," Dr. Park said. "We will provide military protection for all Council trade routes and colonies. In exchange, we ask for recognition of human independence and full diplomatic relations with all Council species. The offer was breathtaking in its scope. Humanity was proposing to become the military guardian of the entire galaxy, protecting the same aliens who had just tried to destroy them. Harmony's singer Aelith of the Alari, who had been monitoring the situation from Council space, immediately transmitted her support for the human proposal. The Alari Council accepts this offer. We have always believed that strength should be used to protect the weak, not to dominate them. Council Seer Thys of the Thane added her agreement. The Thane have studied human history and culture. We believe that humans can be trusted to use their power responsibly. Even Trade Master Zelen of the Nexon saw the benefits of the human offer. Human protection would make our trade routes safer than they have been in centuries. The Nexon support this proposal. Fleet Commander Vorthek found himself in the position of speaking for the Valdry and Krenth species. The Coalition attack had failed completely, and continuing to fight would only result in the destruction of his fleet. I will need to consult with my government, Vorthek said finally. Of course, Admiral Lee replied. But while you are consulting, I want you to consider something. Humanity could have destroyed your fleet the moment you entered our space. We chose not to because we believe that cooperation is better than conflict. Captain Kim Tae added his own perspective. Fleet Commander, my species has learned that the strongest warriors are often the ones who choose not to fight. We have the power to conquer the galaxy, but we would rather explore it. The message that sealed the new relationship came from an unexpected source. War Leader Korthak, the most aggressive member of the Coalition, transmitted a personal message. To Admiral Lee. Admiral, Korthak said, I have spent my entire life as a warrior. I understand strength, and I respect it. Your species has proven that you are the strongest warriors in the galaxy, but you have also proven that you are wise enough to use that strength for protection rather than conquest. Does this mean the Krenth will support the new arrangement? Admiral Lee asked. Korthak's reply surprised everyone. The Krenth will be honored to serve alongside human warriors in protecting galactic peace. We have much to learn from your military doctrine. Over the following weeks, the details of the new Galactic Accord were negotiated by diplomats from all species. The agreement established humanity as the primary military force responsible for protecting galactic trade routes and colonies from external threats. In exchange, the Galactic Council formally recognized human independence and agreed to share their advanced technologies with humanity. Each Council species will